From animated classics to live-action remakes, all Disney movies have at least one thing in common. There's no shortage of Easter eggs and hidden details. If you saw Peter Pan and Wendy, then you already know that this latest live-action adaptation is no exception. Like this movie's connection to the original book, hidden quotes from the play, and a very familiar song playing in the background. Don't worry though, we've got them all for you.
Well, come on, Wendy, let's go.
Number 1. There's a nostalgic melody playing in the background in one scene of Peter Pan and Wendy that you may have caught, but only if you listened closely. Just like the live-action adaptation of Mulan back in 2020, the creators of Peter Pan and Wendy made the interesting and controversial decision to cut the famous musical numbers that were in the movie's animated source material. Peter Pan wasn't a musical in quite the way that some of the other Disney classics were, but come on, remember A Pirate's Life?
Oh, a pirate's life is a wonderful life, a roving over the sea.
Who would cut that? Well, that's what they did, and we can understand how it helps to reinforce this adaptation's darker, more serious tone. Yet, despite much of the music being cut, they did sneak one song into the movie in an unexpected way. As the darling children take flight for the first time, an instrumental version of You Can Fly plays in the background. Just like in this case, change can sometimes be a good thing, but we're happy some things stayed the same. Just like... Number 2. The Same Old Nana.
Poor Nana.
This sweet Saint Bernard has to be one of our favorite parts of Peter Pan, so we're happy that they didn't really make a big change to this beloved character for the movie. She looks just like the animated version brought to life. Interestingly, while this Nana looks like the Nana we know and love, the Nana in the original play that Peter Pan was based on was actually a bit different. Instead of a Saint Bernard, that Nana was a Newfoundland, which was inspired by the playwright J.M. Barrie's real-life dog. Who doesn't love paying homage to their dog? You know what else we love?
I wonder.
All the amazing videos like this one on our channel. Like and subscribe to the Things Animated to make sure you don't miss any. Number 3. There were things that some fans missed from the original Peter Pan when watching Peter Pan and Wendy. But you may have noticed that the wardrobe wasn't one of them. There were clearly some things about Peter Pan and Wendy that the creators wanted to stay true to when adapting the animated classic. And there are plenty of parts of what the characters wear that look familiar. Sure, many of the actors in the cast look pretty different from the animated versions of their characters, but we can still definitely recognize who is whom, thanks to the similar ensembles. Peter Pan and Tinkerbell's costumes both stuck very closely to their original green looks, in spite of how different the actors may look. The same goes for Captain Hook, who, despite being played by Jude Law and looking very different from the Captain Hook we remember, steals the OG character's look perfectly. The darling children, John in particular, also have outfits that look pretty close to their animated counterparts.
I shall try to be worthy of my post. What?
Number 4. Another thing we remember from the old Peter Pan? These famous mermaids.
Would you like to meet him?
Oh, Peter, I'd love to.
All right.
You may have noticed, however, that these mythical creatures didn't appear in Peter Pan and Wendy quite like they did in the original. That doesn't mean they weren't there, though. You just have to look closely. While our main characters fly across Neverland, you can see the mermaids in the water below for a moment. That said, Mermaid Lagoon isn't actually a part of this film the way it was in the version we watched as kids. Number 5. While we tend to compare Peter Pan and Wendy to the original movie, the Disney classic wasn't actually the first version of Peter Pan there was. There was both a book and a play that came before it. And unlike most Disney live-action remakes, this movie isn't entirely based on the original animated film. Much of it instead is based on the book by J.M. Barrie. The book is actually pretty dark, and for obvious reasons that was pared down quite a bit for the animated adaptation, likely to make it just a bit more kid-friendly. That version gave young Pan fans quite a bit less violence and fewer scary moments. That said, fans of the book may recognize that this darkness is portrayed much more accurately in the new live-action film, from its overall tone to some more close calls for some of our favorite characters. Number 6. While there were quite a few aspects of Peter Pan and Wendy that were based on the book, others were based on the play. This applies to the Lost Boys' names, which you may have noticed weren't just like the ones in the animated film. In Peter Pan and Wendy, the Lost Boys were named Curly, Toodles, Nibs, Slightly, and the Twins, the names of the Lost Boys in the play.
But you're not all boys. So?
In the animated version, you may remember that Curly's name was changed to Cubby, which went well with that bear-inspired ensemble that he didn't sport in the new movie. Number 7. The Lost Boys' names weren't the only way that the minds behind Peter Pan and Wendy paid homage to the original play. Another nod to the play was in a particular line: "To die would be an awfully big adventure." Peter Pan and Captain Hook both say this line in Peter Pan and Wendy.
For to die would be an awfully big adventure.
And this was actually a line from J.M. Barrie's play. Number 8. Another callback to the play can be found flying through the air on a kite. And no, we're not talking about Tinkerbell.
I don't think that's a bug.
If you've got quite the eye for Easter eggs, you may have noticed a kite in the background of one scene. The kite reads, "I believe in fairies." This is a direct quote from the original play, which proves that the team behind Peter Pan and Wendy hoped to pay homage to the film's source material, including what came well before the 1953 animated classic. The play, which is called Peter Pan or The Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up, came out way before 1904, and the novel, uncoincidentally titled Peter and Wendy, followed it up in 1911. Number 9. Some fans think that there's not much of a point to shot-for-shot live-action remakes, and most of us can agree that making some changes to the classics when it's time for a reboot can add some interest and excitement to the new films. Even so, there are some movie moments that are just too iconic not to include in a remake. And as far as we and apparently David Lowery, the director of Peter Pan and Wendy, are concerned, this shot is one of them. When Tick-Tock Croc jumps out of the water, Hook stands with one foot on either side of his open mouth. This is surely a nod to the animated version, and we're happy that they left that one in.
Ow!
Number 10. On the other hand, one thing that definitely wasn't in the animated version: Peter Pan's backstory. In Peter Pan and Wendy, when Wendy and Tinkerbell go to Peter's room, we discover that this used to be the room where Peter and James live.
Hook was a friend of yours, wasn't he?
He was my best friend.
James is the real name of Captain Hook. This was a detail in the original novel, but it was also included in Disney's The Pirate Fairy. Number 11. Speaking of fairies, do you know who Periwinkle is? Well, according to the Disney Fairies franchise, that's Tinkerbell's sister.
Everyone, this is Periwinkle, my sister.
It would certainly be an interesting choice to make the fairies story canon with Peter Pan and Wendy, but it looks like they just might have. Some fans believe that Tinkerbell's sister Periwinkle made an appearance in the film. Yes, there's a little blue fairy near Tinkerbell that some eagle-eyed Disney fans think just may be Periwinkle herself. Could this be a setup for some sequels to Peter Pan and Wendy that include Tinkerbell's sister? Well, that's just speculation for now, but it's safe to say that plenty of Tink fans would certainly be tuning in. Did you catch all these callbacks? Did you know about all the references to what came before the original film? What other Easter eggs did you catch? Seriously, we want to know all about it in the comments. And for more videos like this, like and subscribe to The Things Animated.